When everyone else is invited, and you've seen people that hang out closely with Lizzo are the ones to get the first callbacks, the better pay, the better treatment, you are then being programmed to go, well, listen, if I participate in these things, I will advance professionally. Now, am I advancing professionally because I'm an employee or a friend? That is a gray area.
Three former dancers of the US singer Lizzo have accused the star of gaslighting them by denying their allegations of weight shaming and sexual harassment. Crystal Williams, Noelle Rodriguez and Ariana Davis have filed a lawsuit against the Grammy-winning star and her production company, which also includes claims of religious harassment, disability discrimination and assault. After news of the lawsuit emerged, Lizzo released a statement describing the allegations as unbelievable and too outrageous to not be addressed. Well, let's speak now to the attorney representing the aforementioned dancers. That is Ron Zambrano. Ron, good evening to you.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
It's good to speak to you, Ron. I think I want to start just by trying to get an understanding of where we are at, because these allegations first emerged several days ago, and I'm just wondering what progress and how things have proceeded since then.
A lot of it has been battling the narrative in social media and broadcast media, but it's been overwhelmingly positive from what we've seen. The only formal things other than the statements from Lizzo have been through the attorneys who, Marty Singer, who people now recognize as having represented other celebrities who had their own issues. But we got formal letters from them, and we're tying up the initial very, very nascent stages of the procedural nuances of litigation here in LA.
Okay, so there's nothing formal kind of underway at this point. Is that right to say?
Not as far as litigation is concerned, no.
Okay. Do you expect that to change?
Oh, of course. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the lawsuit, but it's 44 pages long. That's the most formal thing that we've done. We intentionally put a lot of details in it because we knew there was going to be some reaction, not this level. But we expect a denial of all claims to be filed through Marty Singer, and we'll have to do discovery, which will be eventually taking the deposition of Lizzo and her team.
Understood. A few days ago, I noted that you'd said more people had come forward with more claims against Lizzo. How many people are now involved?
Up until yesterday, I was exchanging text messages with about 7 people that used to work on in the team and the tour, people beyond the dancers, the dance group. Also, some folks that worked with her previous to the time frame of these claims, for instance, back before she was really well known, and also when she was doing the show for Amazon.
Okay, so how many in total would you say you've been in touch with?
I would say 10 to 13 is a good estimate.
Yeah.
I wish I had the more exact, but that's the most accurate range, I think.
No, sure, and that's helpful. It's just to get an understanding of how this thing has moved in the last few days. I suppose one of the crucial questions here, Ron, that has been explored in great detail online, particularly, and will be explored as this thing continues, is what is it that makes the alleged actions of Lizzo stray from being a sort of hard taskmaster and determined and high-profile boss to somebody who's created a hostile work environment?
That's a great question, and one we have to explain every day to people calling my office, even before this lawsuit. A bad boss doesn't mean an unlawful boss. When you start crossing lines, it has to do with protected categories and things that are delineated through California and federal law here in the U.S. as things that are inappropriate in the workplace. For instance, here you can be religious and say you're religious, but you can't be talking about religion all the time, or people that have authority in the workplace try to pontificate or basically try to convert other people, which is what's happening here. So that's the line that was crossed. And also from Lizzo herself to creating an environment that allowed for sexually charged things to happen. Again, with the dance captain, the talk about the banana trick that's been highly publicized. But the idea is that you can't have these things in the workplace. And when people in employment, people high in management are watching these things happen with the employees, with the dancers who are employees, you have to put a stop to it so that they are not exposed to that sort of behavior anymore.
What you mentioned the banana trick, and I think that is how we'll refer to it, given the time of day here in the UK. These are allegations around a trip to a nightclub, excuse me, where some of those making these allegations suggested that they were forced into behaviour that they didn't want to partake of, etc. You also described that, though, as in part of that answer as being in the workplace. And I just wonder if there are boundaries here that are slightly grey in some ways, because when in a nightclub, albeit with those that you work with, this is the sort of behaviour that, however much it might make us grimace, could be how friends behave on nights out to such venues.
Absolutely, and this is. I want to make a distinction. The banana trick I'm referring to has to do with the captain of the dancers. The
Oh,
same her
sure.
name's Shirlene
Understood.
Quigley. She's the one that was pontificating in 1 second and then saying I could pull out banana and pretend to perform oral sex on it. That's the banana trick I'm
Okay.
doing. But yes, the issue, the banana bar in Amsterdam. I'm happy to talk about that. So yes, you're absolutely right. There is a very, very gray area. So the issue is this, and like anything else, when your boss, I think the CEO where you work with, or a mega superstar that happens to have invited you to a work event, and is it a really a work event, which is the first question. Well, when everyone else is invited and you've seen people that hang out closely with Lizzo are the ones to get the first callbacks, the better pay, the better treatment, you are then being programmed to go, well, listen, if I participate in these things, I will advance professionally.
Mm.
Now, am I advancing professionally because I'm an employee or a friend? That is a gray area. What is being not emphasized is not enough is everyone showed up at the bar and everyone was invited, and my clients were told once they found out what it was, they were told you cannot back out because Lizzo knows you're coming. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two, I think, for Lizzo was once she saw that Ariana Davis was clearly uncomfortable and clearly not engaging in what she was watching, that Lizzo should have said, you know what, I'm going to respect your decision and not force you and make a chance to basically haze you into touching a woman that you don't want to touch. So it was probably gray up until that point. And I think that could translate to a lot of things that happen between subordinate people and people in management, right? Like at one point, I'm okay up to this point, I'm saying no. And people are like, well, you've already gone this far, so I'm going to kind of nudge you further. Well, is that really consent?
I understand. In terms of what Lizzo has said, I just want to reiterate the statement that she put out, said these sensationalised stories are coming from former employees who have already publicly admitted that they were told behaviour on tour was inappropriate and unprofessional. And I do want to turn to what some of the plaintiffs have said in the sort of, in the aftermath of these allegations emerging and following further investigation, primarily by journalists, it has to be said. TMZ reports that one of the plaintiffs, Ariana Davis, shot a video in April 2023 after the alleged incidents that she says have traumatised her and caused her difficulty. And in that video, she says, "It's been so amazing and such a beautiful journey. I look up to her, Lizzo, so much. I just want to follow in her footsteps, and I just want to share that with the Queen Lizzo herself." Is that the sort of language from somebody who's been traumatised in the way that this lawsuit outlines?
Well, the trauma hadn't happened yet. So whoever released that made, and I know Marty Singer made a statement along with that, was completely inaccurate as far as when that was provided. So I would say 90% of the allegations hadn't occurred yet by the time that the video was done. The second thing is, I'm sure there's people in your industry, there's people in my industry, in the legal profession, the entertainment industry. If you're still working for somebody, you're not going to go and talk poorly about them, about, either in private or in public, because you don't want to burn bridges, especially in the entertainment industry. You burn bridges here, you're not going to work again. So there's plenty of people who smile at their bosses even though they don't like them. But the more important thing is the timing of it. The timing of it is really that video was done before the vast majority of the allegations happened, which was between the European and the US tour.
And what were those dates of that tour, of those tours rather?
So it was right at the latter half of April where the US tour restarted, which is when the majority of the allegations that are in the complaint are.
Okay, understood. And TMZ says that video was shot in April 2023, albeit there is no actual day, if you like, no date put on that other than the month. What about this from another plaintiff, Crystal Williams, who appeared once again on TMZ Live and acknowledged that they were fired after Lizzo's team said their dancing wasn't up to par? What does that do to this lawsuit?
So I think it's important to point out Noelle Rodriguez, the third plaintiff, it was not fired. She resigned after watching the absolutely humiliating way that Ari was terminated on May 3rd. So I just want to, which lends to the credence and the credibility, in my opinion, of the other two who were let go. But as far as Crystal was concerned, she was told that she was let go for, and she's repeated this in interviews over and over again, and it's in the complaint that she was let go for budgetary reasons. She was being laid off, and this was in the wake of her complaining and standing up for herself and the other dancers about how they were being misrepresented by the white management team. That they were spreading, that they were pointing, they're basically saying whenever we complain, supposedly we're, instead of standing up for ourselves or asking for something we deserve, we're being told we're complaining too much and we're being unprofessional, which is a common thing with at least Black women here in America, that when they say something to stand up for their rights, they are being viewed as difficult to work with or complainers, whereas people in the same position that are not of color are standing up for their rights and trying to progress.
Ron, it's really helpful to speak to you, really informative, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
That is Ron Zambrano, who is the attorney representing the dancers who have brought those claims against the US singer Lizzo, which Ron was telling us there he anticipates will proceed indeed through the kind of legal system. He reckons 10 to 13 people now have been in touch with him with claims made against Lizzo. Lizzo, of course, has described the allegations as unbelievable and too outrageous to not be addressed. That's a story that will continue to develop.